Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 1983 Superman sequel, Superman 3. Now this film is directed by Richard Lester and much of the same cast returns with the addition of Richard Pryor as Gus and Annette O'Toole as Lana Lang. Now, I'll give you a little bit of a plot about this film just in case you haven't seen it, but I suspect much of you have. This time round, the film focuses on Superman having a little bit of a renaissance. He goes back to Smallville, meets up with an old flame, Lana Lang. There is a character called Gus Gorman in the film, played by Richard Pryor, who's a computer genius who goes and works for Robert Vaughn, who essentially is the new Lex Luthor in everything but name in this film, who's this huge businessman who's trying to essentially, take over the world. Essentially, he's a egomaniac, and he gets Gus Gorman, this computer genius, to do tasks for him. This results in an eventual confrontation between Superman and Robert Vaughn's character Ross Webster. Right. What do I think of Superman 3? Now, this film gets a lot of stick by a lot of people. When you look at the quality of the first two Superman films, they were really, really excellent for the most part. And much of that is thanks to Richard Donner. Let that be said right now. Richard Lester here in this Superman film goes for a really different approach here, a more comical approach. Now, there are aspects of this film that I really like. I think, and certainly when I watched this film as a youngster, I really enjoyed it too, and I still do enjoy it. This film, there are a lot of things that work in this film, but there are also a lot of things that don't work in this film. So I'm going to go over some things that I don't think necessarily work here in this film. This slapstick approach that Richard Lester does is highly evident in the opening section of the film, the opening credits. It's like a British sitcom. All these comedic things going on, and essentially that is setting the tone for the rest of the film. I remember really enjoying it as a kid in the cinema, this slapstick approach, but as an adult you just don't appreciate it when you consider what came before in the first two Superman films. Okay, but you see, you kind of put that to one side. Now, a lot of people think the addition of Richard Pryor in this film ruins it. Now, Richard Pryor, you've got to remember at the time, was a huge star. And apparently he made a comment on a talk show that he wanted to be in a Superman film, which is why he was approached to be in it. Now, I really like his character in this film. I think a lot of it works. And I think if they'd have just limited the comedic approach to maybe just his sections, this film may have worked a little bit better. They allow Richard Pryor to do his thing. A lot of it is funny. Some of it's ridiculous. But he's actually quite a decent character and quite a warm character. He's not a bad guy and stuff like that. I actually don't really mind his character too much, but tonally it doesn't really fit with a Superman film. Robert Vaughn is no Gene Hackman. Clearly they were going for the Lex Luthor approach. They obviously couldn't get Gene Hackman back, probably after what they did to Richard Donner after Superman 2, which is why Margot Kidder had a much reduced role in this film, because she was so upset about what they did to Richard Donner. And it's also the reason why Christopher Reeve almost didn't appear in this film. He refused to do it initially. They was about to recast it, and apparently he came back on board at the very last minute, thankfully, because some of the names I've looked at who was going to be recast as Superman were ridiculous, to say the least. Kurt Russell, John Travolta, Jeff Bridges, Tony Danza were all names that I've read were attached to taking over the role, and none of them would have worked, I think it's safe to say. So thank goodness Christopher Reeve came back. So there's things in this thing that just don't work, simply put. But I think there are things in this that do work. I think the the introduction to the of the kryptonite that kind of pollutes and poisons Superman and turns him bad was a very good idea. The fight in the scrapyard between the evil Superman and the good Superman, while if you think about it was ridiculous, it was a really, really great segment and really worked, and it still is good to watch today. I thought the scenes between Christopher Reeve and Annette O'Toole as Lana Lang were done really well, and I thought when you consider what had gone on in the first couple of films with Lois Lane, you wouldn't have think that would have ever worked, but it did, and she was a good addition to the film, and the Smallville segments of the film worked really well, I think. And I think even though they did mess up the ending of this film, there are aspects of it that also worked. I remember being scared to death in the cinema as a youngster when that woman, Robert Vaughn's sister in the films, gets like attacked by this supercomputer and turned into this robot. It scared me so much in the cinema, and it's still an effective scene. I think they mishandled that scene because they could have had a really good battle between Superman and a robot. They could have even, if they'd have been even more creative, incorporated Brainiac into the supercomputer. That would have been brilliant. But they didn't, essentially, and so they kind of mishandled the ending, this battle between Superman and the supercomputer. Aspects of it were okay, but aspects of it, when you analyse it, were ridiculous and just didn't work at all. So, as a Superman film, this is easily not up to the same standards of the first two, but there are some great moments in it, and I think they definitely mishandled parts of this film with the tried to make it far too slapstick and far too comedic. But when they explored the other aspects of the Superman character, the dark Superman, the evil Superman, whatever you want to call him, I thought they really nailed that side of it. I thought the villain here, Robert Vaughn, did the best as he could. And he's actually fine in the film. You just think it's a cheaper version of Lex Luthor. But it worked. I thought Richard Pryor did work for a lot of the film, but I understand why people don't like his character in the film. But I think if they'd have reduced the other comedic parts of the film, he probably would have come across a little bit better. And I did think him and Christopher Reeve had some decent chemistry in the film too. So it's not a complete disaster, this film. It is very watchable, even to this day. And I do think it is a worthy sequel. But I think a lot of people still frown upon Superman 3 and see it as a really, really poor film. And it's just not the case. I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. It's still fun to watch. I still enjoy it. And I will be moving on now to Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we'll wait for that one, guys.